Serious, what revenge of yours hit the victim way worse than you thought it would? To the point you said maybe I shouldn't have done that? Hi Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will be your nightmare. I think I have told this before, but I think I was 15 and was in class and sat next to a friend of mine. He, for no reason, began to say, "How you ate your bald father," which I followed up with, "How you ate your bald mother." He started crying and ran to the teacher. I honestly forgot his mum had cancer and was getting chemo. Not really relevant to this thread, but you reminded me of a funny incident. In high school, my mum finally insisted that I start shaving because my beginner's mustache looked trashy. So I did, and this kid from across the street, maybe 10 or so years younger than me, noticed, so he tried to mock me. "Haha, you shave your face. Haha, just like my mom. Only girls shave their mustache off." He thought he was mocking me, but all he was really doing was accidentally revealing that his mum had such a dense mustache that she needed to shave. Had a roommate who basically let his new girlfriend move into our house in college. She helped herself to everything in the house, but never contributed. Finally she parked in my parking spot and that was my breaking point. I let all the air out of all of her tires, thinking she'd just air them back up and it would be an inconvenience. Instead she ended up buying all new tires. Whoops. Never came clean about it. So, she had the money to buy 4 new tires, but couldn't kick in on anything around the house. Back in middle school, a friend of mine threw a small wadded piece of paper at me. I retaliated by throwing the only thing I could find, which was mud close to my shoes. Smacked him right in the face with it. Worst part is, it turned out to be dog shit that was at the bottom of my shoe. I still vividly remember his angry "What the frick man, I throw paper at you and you throw dog shit?" My older brother was always quite horrible to me as a child and my parents never really did much about it. He was also much bigger than me, so I couldn't retaliate in a physical way cause I would be swiftly crippled cross-faced, walls of Jericho'd. One day I had just had enough, my revenge. He had been playing Rome Total War for a good 6 hours a day for about 3 weeks. I started a new game and overwrote his save file. Never seen fury like it. I regretted it at the time cause he was so angry it scared me and it made him dislike me even more. But now I praise my 13-year-old self for hitting him where it clearly hurt most. He was a prick, but his choice of submission moves was excellent. I don't know what it was, but a lot of the boys in my 6th grade class thought it was hilarious to try and trip people. They'd get your ass no matter how careful you were. Well, I was pretty good at avoiding it, but when I was in gym class this kid named Joey got my ass hard. I was dribbling down court and he nailed me. I face planted hard. So I thought about how to get him, and I got him at lunch. He was holding a lunch tray, so his hands weren't as useful. He nailed a table and lost a tooth. I got suspended for 10 days, and a strict no tripping policy got implemented. Immediate suspensions if caught. It sucked. My dad beat my ass raw. Sorry, Joey. But a lot of the boys in my 6th grade class thought it was hilarious to try and trip people. I don't know why this is so popular among this age group. Had the same trend at my middle school. One kid would grab the handles of backpacks and pull, which would lead to you landing on your back every time. I told him once that if he did it again I was gonna punch him. He did it again. I punched him. Still surprised I never got in trouble for that one. Joey deserved it. He did. How come he didn't get suspended? Probably because OP didn't shed any blood. No one saw Joey do it. This one is not as serious or entertaining as most of the answers you'll find here. But when we were kids, my sister threw water at me and ran away, so I picked up my glass of water and ran after her. I threw the water from the glass at her once I had her cornered. Unfortunately the glass had slipped out of my hand and it hit her right across her face. She got bruised and cut pretty bad. This one is not as serious. Literally glass someone. I bet she never threw water at you again. Coworker and I had a friendly prank war spanning 2 years. Close to the end of our war he iced my car. Icing involves taking the hose to the parking lot every half hour and spraying a light mist over your victim's car when it's below 0 out. I finished my 12-hour shift to find a car encased in 2 inches of ice. My revenge was, I thought, both more inconvenient for him and less freezing my balls off for me. I decided to take a bedsheet, drape it over his car, and only took 4 or 5 trips out with the hose the next night. So the next morning he finds his car with a 1/4 inch of ice freezing a sheet to his car. When he started peeling off the sheet he pulled his windshield wipers, arms and all off of his ratty Jeep. I got a very pissed off phone call. I felt bad. The unwritten rule was embarrassing or inconvenient. No damage. I paid for repairs, and he got his revenge. He planted a dozen pieces of smoked herring throughout my car. Took me 6 months to find the last piece. Hidden under the carpet under the back window of my car. I can still smell it. I don't even own the car anymore. When I was little my friends kept pointing at the little girl on the box of the board game Operation and saying it looks like me. So I pointed at the big fat guy and said that's your mom and didn't realize she was behind me. When I was in 9th grade a kid ruthlessly bullied me for a few months. I had gotten sick of it and devised a plan for revenge. Every Wednesday we would get to sit outside for quiet reading time and this kid would always go back inside for a piss. I had left and waited in the bathroom for him, peeking under the stall for his shoes to appear. He came in the bathroom, took his piss, then played on his Game Boy for the rest of reading time. The bell rang and he walked out to the crowded stairwell still looking down at his Game Boy. I bumped into him. He fell face first down the stairs, knocked out 4 front teeth. Everyone on the stairs assumed he fell, because he was playing his Game Boy. I feel pretty bad about it. I'm still mad at myself for this. When I was a preteen, my friend and I went to one of those day camps that picked us up in yellow school buses. One of the other kids on our bus was a younger boy I'll refer to as Eli. Eli was a freaking terror. He would scream and spit and hump things, make a mess, and be as annoying and insufferable as possible. Riding the bus with him was a nightmare for everyone involved most of the time. So I came up with this idea. I found his family in the phone book and called up pretending to be a camp counselor. I told his mum that he was misbehaving on the bus and that he would either be disciplined or kicked out of the camp if he didn't stop. She bought it, said she would talk to him about it. I felt so freaking smart. Until the next day, when a quiet, sullen Eli showed up with a black eye. One time I saw a truck with the typical "how's my driving? Call XXXXXXXXXX." So I call and tell them that the guy was driving erratically, because 16-year-old me thought that would be hilarious. The lady on the other end sounded like she was writing stuff down and I started to panic realizing that I may be screwing with the driver's livelihood. So mid-conversation I drop the phone on purpose and pick it up and deepen my voice to say this is foreseeable past dad. Apparently he thought it'd be funny to call the number on the back of your trucks as a prank. The lady was understanding and said that it's nothing to mess around with, as they take driving safety very serious. I continued to feel bad so I told her that my son would like to apologize. So I dropped the phone again and apologized in a regretful way and then hung up. Probably the most elaborate, stupidest thing I've ever done. Hada, you still did the right thing in the end. Kudos. Yikes. When my friends and I were young, middle school or elementary age, there was this pair of sisters in our class. They were the epitome of a teacher's pet. Helped, because their mother was the assistant teacher, and whenever the teachers would leave they would snitch on everyone. Sometimes if they didn't like you they would make it up and you would get in trouble still. My friends and I were quite annoying so we obviously got blamed for it that we didn't do. No matter what we did we were never believed in our innocence. So we did the logical thing of talking to every other student in the class and they shared our opinion of how much we all didn't like these girls. Everybody was fed up with their it. So we wrote a paper stating the itty things these girls were doing and how everyone didn't like them and so on. We then got about 90% of our classmates to sign this paper. Then we gave it to the principal. I'm not 100% sure what happened next. But I do remember the principal coming into our class after recess and she began to ask if this paper was true and so forth, and everyone who signed it agreed. A few days later these girls were kicked out of school, or maybe they left due to humiliation. Parents decided to pull them from the school. Their mother was still the assistant teacher and she was crying about the whole thing, and she was saying things about how we are horrible and how could we lie about her angels. I felt a bit bad, but I was quite happy that those girls were no longer there, because they were mean and massive liars. I had to kick a guy out of my rental for growing weed. He had turned a room of this historic building into a grow room, destroying the carpets with mold and pinching a basketball-sized hole in the wall for ventilation. He also had a dog which wasn't allowed, and the neighbors complained about him beating his girlfriend. So I kicked him out. His mum was the co-signer and fought me on the phone for over an hour telling me how he doesn't even smoke. Some parents will never be able to see that their kid does bad things. Had a big group of friends from 13-18. When we were 17, one of them stole my girlfriend. To be fair, he legitimately knew we were going out. He got her drunk and shagged her at a party. He knew I'd find out. Said to my face he didn't care. Tough it, mate. It was her fault as well, of course. She wasn't passed out or anything like that. She'd been leading him on and was sober enough to consent, if drunk enough to get over the social stigma of actually doing it. So from that point on, our group of friends just cut this guy out of our circle. We stopped inviting him to stuff. If he tried to hang out, we told him to piss off. Mates that had been friends with him since primary school just ignored him. Initially, I was super proud of this show of solidarity from my brothers. My best mate was actually dating my now ex-girlfriend's best mate, and he split up with her because of her attitude about the whole thing, trying to defend her friend to him and make him hang out with them as a foursome. So, first summer back from uni, we're all 19-20. We see him in a local pub. I don't know what to do, decide to try and be cool about it, and go up to say hi. He tells me to frick off. I guess he blames me for all his friends cutting him out of his life. I don't get a chance to explain that I in no way asked them to do that. They just did what they saw as the right thing. 2 weeks later, we are in the same pub, and I see his younger sister. She's 17 now, very attractive. I start a conversation with her about her brother, and how I feel bad about what we did. She says that it did really hurt him, but he's got some new friends now mostly from uni, and is still with my ex, despite a long distance relationship over the uni semesters. He won't talk to any of us old friends though, which I think is a genuine shame. He's known some of the guys since we were 5. One drink leads to another with this girl, and we end up back at her house. Her parents are away, her brother is staying at my ex's flat, she has her own flat, didn't go to uni, got a job, so empty house. We end up shagging. Next morning, her bro calls round just as I'm leaving. The look on his face as he works out what's happened. He goes from utter despair to absolutely mental in about half a second. Eventually I just had to leave. His sister finally managed to explain to him that it was nothing to do with revenge or anything, and that I was genuinely sorry for how we treated him. I don't know if she told him the whole conversation we had about how I'd feel bad as I didn't want to upset him anymore, and she convinced me to come back to hers by saying she was her own woman, could make her own decisions, and he wasn't due to be home at any time. If he hadn't have randomly turned up, I hope he'd have never known. He still won't accept my Facebook friend request though. It would be better if you had said, tough it, mate. He doesn't need to, he shagged his sister. Okay Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will be your nightmare.